So in my mind, when you're making a champion pool, there's like a few things you want to keep in mind, right? First off, smaller the better, right? Like if you can have a functional champion pool with like 3 champs compared to a function champion pool with 5 champs, that's really, really valuable because if you play fewer champs, you're going to be better on them, basically. Like, you're going to know the matchups better, you're going to be able to play them better, all that sort of stuff. So, downsizing your champion pool as much as possible, I think is really good. I would try and aim for, like, the 2 to 4 range. As for what champs to have in your champion pool, I think this is something people overcomplicate a lot. In my mind, a champion pool only has a few actual requirements. So, I do think you need a champ that is like a blind pick. So we definitely need a blind pick. That's like basically, I would say the most important thing. And there's a few ways to blind pick, right? So you can blind pick a safe champion that is hard to punish. So I'll give you some examples. Like if I just open up, we just go by, I want to look at pick rate mainly. So yeah, examples of like really safe blinds are generally champs with either a lot of mobility. So examples of that would be things like Ahri, right? Like they've got mobility, they've got sustain, they've got wave clear, basically the ability to neutralize like any bad matchup or like a bad composition, right? So having mobility is nice. You can get it from range instead. So something like Lux can be a reasonable blind because she's so long range and she can, even if you're against a comp that has like the ability to punish you, you'll quickly reach a point where you can kind of be safe. So examples are Ahri, you can play Lux. You can also just play other neutralizers, like different champs neutralize in different ways, right? Like Ahri neutralizes through wave clear. You can play a champ like Galliard that's just super tanky. Now, I will say Galliard kind of falls off as a blind in higher elo, but overall, it's pretty solid, right? Can't really go wrong with Galliard blind. It does fall off in higher elos because people are better at playing AD carry mids, but it's probably fine. You can also play champions that kind of just work well in like almost every situation. So another good example would be something like Ori, right? Now, there is no champion that's a perfect blind, right? Like, there's literally no champion in the game that has, like, no bad matchups, no, bad compositions, whatever. Yeah, you're kind of saying that you want something that's going to be good in most games. So these are kind of your safe options, right? Now, there is, like, another path you can go, which is instead of picking something really safe and neutralizing, you can pick something that's a really greedy blind, right? Like, you can pick something that basically says, like, okay, if you don't punish me, I'm going to get away with my pick. So this would be things, and like bonus points if people don't know what to pick into these champs, or if they are also like good neutralizers. So I would say the greedy blinds would be, let's actually make this, so let's make this safe blinds. Your greedy blinds would be things like Kale could be an option, right? Now, Kale, I think, is a very bad blind, but especially in lower elos where games are going long and people don't know how to punish you, that could be good for that reason. Now, I still think it's better as a counter, but you could do that. I would say the good versions of this, though, I think Zed is a really good example. Like, Zed scales really well and is, like, kind of a... Yeah, it's a pick that if you don't punish, just goes absolutely nuts. I think Talia is another example. Talia's got, like, really good ability to neutralize most matchups, and with the right builds, you can, like, again, you can deal with basically everything. What else would be, like, a meta option? Potentially Silas. Now, Silas is just OP because he's bugged right now, so maybe that doesn't count. Azir, I guess, would be another one, right? Like, Azir is kind of a safe blind because he's always going to be useful. But the thing is, like, Azir can definitely lose lane. But the thing is, like, a lot of the time, it just, like, doesn't matter if you lose lane with Azir because, the moment you hit one item, you're, like, good to go. You hit 2 items, and the game's, like, basically over. Oh, another thing I should add, actually, is you can play flex picks. So flex pick blinds can be pretty good as well. So if you pick something, especially when it's like not often seen mid and people are going to expect it to be top, especially because when you're picking in draft, right, like top's going to last pick most of the time. So if you pick a top laner early, they'll probably think it's top. So a good example would be something like Rumble. Or Kennen, maybe Jace. I don't know if Jace is like common in lower elos, but stuff like that. Or you could play like a tank, even a Scion or a Cassante or something like that. I think that's definitely good. Karma, yeah, you can go something like Karma. The only issue with that is that like a lot of the time, the enemy will still see your pick, right? Like if you just imagine like the draft, support will pick before top. So if you pick Karma early, then most likely your top laner is still going to swap with support, and then your support will lock in a pick. So it's going to give your support counter, which is good, but you're still going to get counterpicked, if that makes sense. Whereas like if you pick a flex pick that's is a top laner, like not only is your top laner going to get a good matchup, but they're also not going to know that it's your champ mid, right? That makes sense. Other than that, you know, there's kind of a lot of things that are like nice to have in champion pools, but you don't need them. So like other options is you can just have like hard counter champions. Now the thing is, if you have a good blind, you can probably just play your blind pick in basically every game, you know? So what I mean by that is like, let's say you're going for champion pool of 2 and you have your like safe blind or whatever is Ahri. So now what we can do is that in any game where our hard counter is not good, we just pick Ahri, right? So you can have some like really weird hard counter like Malphite. Like Malphite into an AD comp, right? And even if you only play Malphite 1 in every 20 games, it doesn't matter because you're happy playing Ahri every other game, and that's fun. So you can kind of be as niche or as flexible with these champs as you want. Like you can have something that is just a counter to very few champs like Malphite, or you can play something like Silas that is like really, really good into certain ults, right? Or you could play something like a Kassadin or like a Cassio or I don't know, what's a good example? You could play something like Syndra that just shits on mages, right? Like there are, you can do basically whatever you want for hard counters, as long as your pick that you can play all the rest of the time is like reasonably fine, you know? So I would recommend having a hard counter, but you really don't, like it's an option, like I said. Another one is having like an AD/AP champ, like having one of each. Again, I don't think you need this, because especially in low reloads, people don't itemize defensively very well, right? Like, there's a good chance that even if you play fucking 3 AP champs, the enemy team doesn't build matter exist. But ideally, you have both an AD champ and an AP champ in your pool. Or you play a champ that is a hybrid. Yeah, I don't really need to list examples for this. I guess if you're going to play a hybrids, it would be things with true damage, you know, like Yoan maybe, or Gwen or some shit. But honestly, this is like not that important. I think people get really hung up on this, and actually, like, even though I'm making this, don't get too hung up on the whole you have to have the perfect champion pool, right? Like, too many people focus on having the perfect champion pool. It's kind of like trying to really min-max, having like the literal perfect workout routine. But like, dude, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, at the end of the day, you just gotta go do something, right? Like, it doesn't even matter too much what it is. What else would be kind of good? Okay, I think a champ that like counters your main can be kind of nice, right? Like, let's say that you play Ahri, then it could be nice to have a champ that's really good against Ahri if it gets taken away from you. I think that's a good option. And I guess one other thing that I'll say, because like, you know, this question always gets asked, is it better to play champs that are like really different, or is it better to play champs that are all the same? So I would actually say it's better to keep your champs within a class, because it's going to allow you to learn the game quicker. You know, like if you play one mage, one AD carry, one bruiser, and one tank, right? Like, it's going to take you years to be good at all those classes, and it's going to slow down your learning a lot. Whereas, like, let's say you play 4 assassins, or 4 mages, or 4 AD carries. Like, you're going to get better quicker, and once you get higher elo, it becomes easier to learn. And what I mean by that is, like, the fastest way to learn a champion is to play against it. If you want to learn Zed, play against a Master Zed or whatever, right? Whereas you're going to learn a lot less from a Gold Zed, because that guy probably doesn't have, you know, he doesn't have the champ down either. So I personally found it a lot easier to learn different champs once I got into higher level. What do you think about the difficulties for a champion pool? Yeah, okay, I will say again, I don't think it's worth overthinking too much. If you're going to play like a really difficult champ, like a Yasuo, then you probably want to make sure the rest of your champion is really easy or just like really small, you know? Because if we're going to play like a billion champs with a Yasuo in our pool, it's just like not really going to work, right? Okay, I guess last thing that I can think of off the top of my head would be choosing your secondary role. So I don't think you should learn a whole bunch of champs in secondary role. I think it's really, really key if you just focus on playing one of your champs in another role. So like if you can play, like if you play mages, Q mid ADC or Q mid support, and you can play in those roles. If you play assassins, Q mid jungle, and you can play your junglers, or sorry, you can play your mids in jungle. If you main, you know, like Bruise or whatever, then you can Q mid top. I think it really just depends what champ you play. And yeah, I'd actually try not to learn, if you're going to learn a champ for another role, probably just learn one and like literally one trick it in your off role. But I would really try and find a role to play your champ in. I think just about everything these days can be played in multiple roles. There really aren't many champs that can only be played mid. And dude, if in doubt, you can basically play anything support. You know, I'm not even kidding. Like, you can just fucking walk whatever you want in support and it'll be fine.